there was in Los Angeles for many years what's probably in terms of hard rock music, not just metal, but hard rock music, the greatest station of all time was KNAC in Long Beach, California. And Mike Stark, who does many of our mixes that we play usually early in the show on Kick Out the Jams, Mike was at the station, and that's really how I knew the station, because when I was in L.A., I would listen to it partly to hear Mike. And he is now working with Tom Joyner with his syndicated morning show. The KNAC staff, they had an anniversary gathering of everybody, like a reunion, a couple of weeks ago. So I thought I'd get Mike, who's never been on the show, even though his brilliant mixes have often been on the show, to come and talk about it, and also to give us a Tawn Mastrey update. To sort of kick us off, he made a mix for this week, and the mix he made was of Tawn Mastrey, who was known on the air as the Leather Nun.
Hello, this is Lemmy from Motorhead. You know, the ugly ones. And you're getting off, apparently, with the Leather Nun, Tawn Mastrey on Pure Rock 105.5 KNAC. I only wish you could see what she's dressed in right now.
You know, actually, everybody's thinking about memories and stuff, and I was trying to think of, I don't really have a lot of memory banks left, but I was thinking about, you know, I think that really one of the things I'll never forget is that this audience that we have had all these years has been the most exciting, most loyal, and most enthusiastic audience. I've been at a lot of stations around town, as you know, and I'm telling you, the KNAC followers are the best, and I'm going to miss them the most, I think.
You got to get closer to that microphone.
Yeah. All right. But really, the audience is the one that I'll never forget, so love you guys. Mwah. Well, hello. I'm Tawn Mastrey, the Leather Nun from KNAC Radio. No one else is able to come to the phone right now. They're just a little tied up. You've probably called to take your aggressions out on them anyway. Perhaps I can persuade you to take them out on me. Go ahead. Don't be shy. Talk to me.
FM radio's problem child.
Hey!
Pure Rock 105.5 KNAC.
By the way, you're in tune with Pure Rock 105.5 KNAC Long Beach, Los Angeles. We're live at Tower Records on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood. In honor of Skyscraper, David Lee Roth's brand new album. Okay, David is in position. He's gearing up and lowering himself, making sure that all the ropes are secure. Whoa, he's leaning back at a 90-degree angle from the side of the building and salutes the crowd with a grand grin on his face. The guy is a
Hi, this is David Lee Roth. Don't touch that dial, because you are listening to the loudest station in the nation, baby. 105.5 No Jive KNAC, Long Beach, Los Angeles.
We're here live in Moscow, broadcasting via satellite. I'm Tawn Mastrey, your host for the next 90 minutes of insanity. Speaking of insane, let's talk to Skid Row's Rachel about the fact that you're opening the show for 140,000 crazy Russian fans 2 days in a row. Are you shaking in your boots, buddy?
To open something this big is pretty cool. I just hope we don't mess it up for everyone else, because it's a little better.
Tawn Mastrey here with Cuss and Rudolph, as I said, in case you just tuned in from Scorpions. KNAC live in the studios with three very handsome young gentlemen. Oh no, it's Judas Priest on Pure Rock KNAC 105.5 FM, the hardest rockin' station in the nation.
That was the Leather Nun, Tawn Mastrey. That was KNAC. That's why, as Metallica said, when we hit LAX, the first thing we do is get in the rental car and tune in 105.5 because it was, well, Mike Stark is here, I think.
Yeah,
Mike? Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. I know it's early, although for a morning radio guy, it's late.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, this is the time period I worked when I was at KNAC, because I did the Sunday morning talk show. So,
which I was a guest on many times, and Mike was so influenced by this that online he's known as Mike KNAC. That's his
email
name,
address.
his email address, right? And so this KNAC reunion, were you the driving force behind it, or you and Thrasher or something?
Yeah, actually, the whole Tawn Mastrey situation is what the driving force behind it was, and you almost weekly discuss the situation with the healthcare issues in this country in terms of musicians. But, radio people are a lot like musicians in terms of their transient behavior, in terms of where they work and how they don't have health insurance where at most places they work. And Tawn is in that same situation. So to sort of bring light to her situation and her benefit website, which is, if I may,
yes, please,
tawnmastreybenefit.com, we decided we'd put together a reunion, or I decided, and it really wasn't a big decision to make because a lot of people were ready to do it, and we had a very good turnout of people on the phone from all over the country and people in studio, and it turned out to be a blast. And
now, where was this broadcast? Was this broadcast on the Internet?
Yeah, this was broadcast on the Internet a couple weeks ago, and it is available to listen to through my website, MikeStark.net, and so you can go back and listen to it. I've got a podcast of the whole thing up there. But the interesting thing about the reunion is that we all got out there for Tawn, but by the end of the broadcast, there were a lot of folks that really were inspired by what happened that day, because radio is not what it was back in '95 when we went off the air, as you also talk about so often. Radio nowhere.
Now I got Bruce talking about it.
Yeah, radio nowhere, right? So it may help Tawn get a liver. We hope it helps Tawn get a liver, but, it helped a lot of us, too, realize that, good radio can still be done.
Well, and the other thing about these, when you get involved in these great creative projects, for me it was Cream Magazine, for you it's KNAC. Right. When you get back together with those people, there are some experiences you share that you can't share with people in your everyday life. And it's like you're just looking around the rest of the time going, and you're seeing things that you can't, because you'd have to drag them back in a time machine to explain what it is you think you're seeing, right?
Yeah, and the problem is that the people in 2007 maybe don't appreciate it the same way as we did with your Cream experience and with the KNAC experience. But
I don't think we appreciated it at the time in the way that I appreciate having had the opportunity now.
Right.
Because it was like, it was freedom in a certain way. We've been talking about that all morning, and those things, and KNAC to me was like, like a record and not like a record. But when I knew when we were coming back to the people who were talking to me, A, they were going to care about whether I liked it, and B, they were going to be in the spirit of it.
That's the key right there, the spirit of the whole thing. And everybody that worked at KNAC was in the spirit of the thing. Now, when I started at KNAC, I wasn't really a metal guy, but, man, I got sucked up in the culture real quickly. And especially hosting a talk show, I began to understand that the metal audience are real people. They're not the way they're portrayed by the Gores and other folks. They are real people, mainly a blue-collar audience back in the day, and have real issues and real problems that have to be discussed.
And real insights into why things are as they are, or why,
exactly
where things could go, what the possibilities are.
But that's not the way that they're portrayed, and even to this day, metal people are looked at as, subhuman or something. I don't know.
Well, subhuman. I mean, I think that with the exception of hip-hoppers, who have an additional burden, because most metal fans are white and most hip-hop fans are black, at least maybe. I immediately begin to think of all the exceptions in both areas I know, right?
Exactly.
I think people don't know there are a lot of black metal musicians. And some great bands and players that are fundamental to that music who were African American.
Yeah, Vernon Reid being one.
Yeah, probably the most prominent one. Phil Lynott, maybe, if you count Thin Lizzy in that. And I would, I said it was hard rock, and that's it wasn't just metal.
Well, and we were playing. You're featuring "Are You Experienced" today. We played every cut on that record.
Sure.
So Jimi Hendrix as well.
So but the thing is that those are the two most reviled in the media audiences, and the two that are most misrepresented. There was a thing that happened here at Ozfest last week before.
Yeah, Thursday it happened. 2 people died in the parking lot.
This is Jim Rotolo, by the way. This is Mike Stark that we're interviewing. I'm Dave Marsh. Kick out the jams.
2 people died in the parking lot before the show, and at the PNC Bank Arts Center in New Jersey. And now, as a result of it, they've banned all tailgating at the PNC.
even when they have like Jose Feliciano there.
Yeah, no bottle of Carlo Rossi out there in the parking lot.
I don't get it.
Well, it's to send a message, and the message that's sent isn't that you should be safer. The message that's sent is you should be less free.
Well, have these people ever gone to a Grateful Dead tailgate party, or
remember
Jimmy Buffett tailgate party, or
or for that matter, a tailgate, the kind of drinking and et cetera that goes on the lawn in Central Park when they have the symphony out there.
Right.
You think those people aren't stewed? You think you can drink a bottle and a half of white wine and get up sober?
Sounds like a guy that maybe's done that occasionally. Could be wrong.
Not with an orchestra. I leave that to my old Lancers drinking pal Rod Stewart.
There you go.
Well, I'm sure his classical album will be along any time now.
Oh, please.
Were the Faces a band that KNAC would have played?
No, I don't. We never played the Faces, but we played the MC5 occasionally. In fact, we played the unedited version of Kick Out the Jams, believe it or not.
Well, back then, the FCC had taken a sort of, they were like the Three Monkeys about, they're mostly like the Three Monkeys anyway, but the Three Monkeys with, see no evil, speak no evil, hear no evil, about some of the language issues, particularly if it was in a record.
Well, let me tell you a quick funny story about that. I started there, and I was a traditional radio guy, and you don't cuss on the radio, right? So I'm hosting the Sunday morning talk show without a delay, with metal fans calling. Okay, so that's a recipe. So the first week I'm on the air, the guy gets on, F this, F that, and I immediately cut him off. Just cut him right off. Can't say that. Okay, so this happens a couple times. Next week, the operations manager calls me and he goes, you got to be a little more tolerant with these folks. This is just their way of communicating, and don't worry about the FCC. Nobody's listening. That matters. So, let them say the word, warn them against it, and continue on. Don't just cut them off and throw them off the air. So I learned real quickly that this was a different culture than even radio at that time. So,
yeah, that's very unusual to allow a spoken, fuck or whatever the other 6 words are. Can you recite them? Fuck, shit, piss.
The George Carlin thing.
Yeah, well, it's good. So you motherfucker, asshole. That's 5 or 6. I lost count. That's from listening to too much George Carlin.
They change all the time, too.
Well, they changed. I mean, who knows now? I mean, now I think you could go almost anywhere in terrestrial radio and nobody's listening. Except during the Tom Joyner show.
Right. But KNAC was an interesting place, and the reunion. If people get a chance to listen to it, there's some great stories. I'll tell one great Tawn Mastrey story that involves me. My first day on the air at KNAC, Tawn was following me, and we did a crossover like they used to do in radio, where you talk to the next jock on the air. And so Tawn comes on, and she's very interested in me, saying, where'd you come from? Basically interviewing me before I went on the air. So I go on and do my show, and I go home, and the next day there's a big hubbub at the station because after I'd left, Tawn had left the air, and there was dead air for about 20 minutes. Well, it turned out, Tawn being the heavy metal queen that she was, had partied a little bit too much the night before. And had spent a little too long in the restroom area, and
20 minutes
for 20 minutes off the air. So
well, it takes the girls longer to go.
Yeah, they had to come down and wake her up, basically. But I had no idea. She was so coherent when I spoke to her that there wasn't a problem. But Tawn is a treasure in the metal community, and we're hoping that these benefits, and they're going to have some big benefits. Greg Steele, in fact, is involved in helping set up a larger concert in the next few months to help.
Well, you know what? What I'll do is now, Greg, I don't even have to drag out of bed early, maybe, on Sunday morning. I'll get Greg on to talk about it because I'd love to have him on the show, and hopefully he and I'll be getting up to something pretty soon.
Yeah, and you mentioned that if people want to hear KNAC, they can hear remnants of it on Sirius. The Hair Channel 23 has Long Paul and Dangerous Darren, and Tawn, when she gets back, are on Channel 23, the Hair Nation, and those were the big jocks at KNAC. And Paul is also on.
This is Jim Rotolo music.
Yeah. Long Paul is also on Buzzsaw 19, so there's even a little crossover there. So if people want to sort of get the feel for what KNAC was about, they can hear it right on Sirius.
Yeah, and also there are air checks and stuff at MikeStark.net. What I want to ask you, Mike, because we're getting low on time, but we got a minute.
You got a great record to close with.
Well, we'll get to that in a second. But I agree with you. Where did you develop these montage making skills that you have? We just heard a great example of them in the Leather Nuns montage. Did you develop that at KNAC, or is that something you knew how to do when you got there?
I never was really much of a production guy, and there was a production guy who was at our reunion who now is the production director at KLOS in Los Angeles.
A much bigger station.
Yeah, a much bigger station. And during the first Iraq War, which, was a completely different vibe, if you remember, he put together a little montage about that. Sort of like in the vein that I do these montages. And I was so impressed by that, and I ought to send that to you at some time. You can have a listen to it. But he took all these metal songs and mixed it with sound bites, and it just was really a cool mix. And I was forever inspired by that, and I told Stu that not too long ago. And from there, I just decided, well, that's a great way to communicate over the radio without really having to say anything.
Yeah, it is, and you get your editorial points across, and it can be. I mean, this morning's was pretty funny. 3 genitals.
Yeah. That was Tawn.
Yep,
that's her girl.
I'm sure it still is.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Without a doubt.
So anyway, people want to go where for Tawn Mastrey?
Okay, TawnMastreyBenefit.com. Mastrey spelled Mastrey. So it's TawnMastreyBenefit.com. They want to hear the reunion, go to my website, MikeStark.net. Tawn is on the list to get a liver in Minnesota, and
she is.
Yeah, she is on the list, and we're just hoping for the best at this point. So, but all of this will cost money because without health care, that's what happens.
Yeah, it costs not a little bit of money either, a lot of money.
A lot of money.
Mike, one of the things that we've always had in common is that hard or not hard, you've always been a Bruce Springsteen fan.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And we spent a lot of time talking about it on the air and off the air over the years. I don't know how long we've known each other, about 20 years?
Something like that.
Yeah, because Mike also did a lot of stuff, or it does, for Rock and Rap Confidential, which is rockrap.com, now that, as long as we're giving out URLs this morning.
Might as well, what the heck.
So what I wanted to do, you had already heard Radio Nowhere, I think, before, but would you please, you got about 10 seconds, please introduce the thing, and don't forget, the last thing you're supposed to say is bring them home.
That's right. Radio Nowhere, brand new music from Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. Bring them home.
See you next week. Talk to you soon, Mike.